So this brings us to the next topic, and we are moving to a part where we actually scoring the event. So some points from this topic is cross-referencing from your judging notes using two decimal numbers, the guidelines for a teamwork of the judging panel, communication between judging panel members, and entering scores in time limits. So let's focus on that. All right, guys. So, let's say we are judging the real event right now, and we should focus on how the process actually works. One of the key things that we discussed throughout the episode is the importance of notes for keeping track and making them in the way that you can read them and use them during the event. How would you describe the cross-referencing to the, are there some tricks? We understand that the cross-references is going back to already evaluated runs and compare it. Would you recommend or would you advise our viewers with some practical tips or your experiences how to improve this?
I would say first off, legible notes. If it's shorthand, whatever it may be, and you can cross-reference it with not only other riders, in the same heat. You could do the same if it's a qualifier and you're looking at the finals. You can also go back and look at what they did to qualify and see
Hmm.
if the same rider, you can look back and see how they got there.
Hmm.
So staying organized and legible throughout the day and throughout the event, and then also having the communication during practice, communication with the other judges, like going back on it. There's no one's the best judge in skateboarding. The
Hmm.
the pan the panel is set up for just for that reason.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's good. That's an important point that you made to cross-reference not only between the heats of that day, but also look at your notes from the previous phases or event rounds
Yeah.
to stay even more accurate. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times, athletes, they are either working and adding tricks to their lines, or they could just repeat, and this definitely helps. Uh, would you advise, like, do you have any tips, like, are you making notes like your permanent current standings or something that could help to speed up the process of cross-referencing?
Um, well, talking about the the notes, the notes from the day before or from the previous competition round. Once you get the results of the people that make the cut, uh, it's important to identify them on your previous notes, and put some marks. So it's gonna save you time when you're gonna have to, have a look at it. Or you just take all these dudes or these girls, and you make a list of the notes they had in the previous round of the competitions, and you
Hmm.
make a list of all these people. So you have one sheet of paper next to you when you're going to judge them in the next round, whether it's the
Hmm.
semifinal or the finals. So it's easier to be like, oh, well, we used to score that, a 65 yesterday, and well, it's pretty similar today.
Hmm.
So, or it's much better today, or
Hmm.
well, it didn't make it happen today. So you get this benchmark.
Okay,
Uh,
and it also helps you to basically, because the anchoring of scores, it's happening in every day when it's a
yeah,
new day of the event. So it helps you
yeah,
to be basically more on point and accurate when you anchor the score for that particular day,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. And more confident in what you're doing, like once you get going and you've got your anchored score or scores that you're using and you've got your notes, you're just able to go through it a lot quicker, and we're not, you're not stalling on, like we're talking about, with short time frame. And
Hmm.
That's
All right.
the saying that comes to mind is proper planning prevents piss poor performance.
Hmm.
And that's what it kind of is. The more notes you take, and the more you know the more you pay attention in the beginning, that's the thing. You minimize the variables. You minimize the surprises towards the
And
end.
you consolidate the consistency throughout the event.
Hmm.
And it makes sense at the end of the event. You can go back and be like, well, you know, that makes sense. You know, we started in the qualification scoring in this type of range, and look, we're in the finals, and it makes sense because that corresponds to what we were defining at the beginning of the event.
Definitely. That's a great point, guys, that you made. Now let's move to the other thing, and that it's basically using the 2 decimal numbers and making enough space to score athletes. A lot of judges in the beginning of their professional careers, or with the very short experience, they often make the mistakes. They don't create enough space, and when you look at the formats of the competitions, each athlete has 3 runs. So it's very important to create enough space to be able to slide and rank the following athletes accordingly. And this is where the 2 decimal numbers also help. Now we talk about that there is no identical tricks, no identical performances. Do you think that scoring 2 different rounds with the same number is the right thing to do?
It shouldn't happen. If I think about, like, you know, one particular skater and they do their first run and you give them a score and you've got it all written down, and then they go and do the same run, you can't just go, oh, same run, same score, because you got to think about all that different criteria that you're judging them on: the style, the execution of the trick, the amplitude. They might land a bit sketchy on something and they still landed it, so they've still actually technically done the same run. But, you know, you can tell that, you know, something tells you in your gut that the first time they did it was a lot cleaner, it was a lot neater. Maybe they landed higher up in the transition, come out with more speed, and then the next trick looked better. You know, those kind of things that might be really minor, it's still technically the same run. It might differ by 0.5, or it might differ by, you know, something really minor, but it shouldn't be the same, because we're human beings. We're not going to do exactly the same run and execute it in the exact same way. So attention to detail, really.
Exactly.
Not just what the trick is.
Great.
And the use of the subjective criteria is key here at this point. Because that's well, they look the same. So they did the same tricks. They flew the same way. They did the Smith grind in the same corner, the same length and everything. But that's where you should be like, whoa. But maybe this guy, you know, I prefer to see this type of style, and you know, and that's where this little differences they're really important, because they help you to not put the same scores to 2 different performances.
So not only scoring 2 different rounds of the same athlete with the same number, it's not a good thing, but even more when we apply this to 2 different athletes and their runs, right?
Exactly.
It should never be scored with the same number, right? Yeah,
you got a big enough scale and a big enough range there with 2 decimal points that it just shouldn't happen. And if you've kept your notes neat and you can see what scores you've given, you know, that's why it's really important to, I think, to write the notes, but also jot down, you know, what score you've got next to it, and you can look back and, you know, you're making sure you're not, at quick glance, I write them quite big so I can look back and I'm not giving the exact same score.
Right. And then you also have the thing too. I mean, we're judging at the Olympic level, right? So all these guys and girls are very, very well. There's no one going to be down here and up here. Everyone is at the pro level. So use your decimals, use everything you can to space them out. Yeah, to space them out correctly, because and the thing too that's funny is, like, in the Olympics, you know, everyone's representing their different countries, but these people skate together all the time. You know, a lot of them lived in California. Everyone knows each other. So for, like, you know, the Olympic setting, yes, everyone, nationalities may be different, but these people, oh, you're going to do that on that hip? That's like the last time we skated against each other. So things can get close. So it's up to the judges to use all the tools you have to separate these issues.
And it's also important to prevent ties from happening, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we explained in the episode 2 how the computation of score works. And I think the more same or identical numbers you award for performance is the risk of getting ties is bigger. And the tiebreakers, based on the World Skate competition rules, use the second best round to break the tie, right? So
Yeah.
by doing this, judges might create an unfair end result because the desired ranking would not be met because the tie would be broken with the secondary score, so to say. So for all of you viewers, and the advice and the recommendation is clear: never award the same score for two different rounds, either for the same athlete or different athletes, even more. All right, now let's move to the another thing, and that's teamwork. We talk like how demanding and how quick the environment of the competitive skateboarding could be. And to me, it is only natural because the events are long that you might miss a trick, or you might just make a note or blink. And so are judges helping each other? Is this something that it's you know, a normal thing to do when judging an event?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a team, right? This is a team consistent of opinions, of backgrounds. That we all work together to get the best result and the most accurate result for the event. So yeah, if there's someone, you know, writing their notes and something, you know, something happens, then someone should speak up. You
Yeah.
know, that you're not helping someone form their opinion about what that score should be. You're
Mhm.
actually just helping them you're giving them the info that they need to you know, better accurately score.
Oh, I just gonna quickly say it doesn't hurt to yell out things or communicate. I don't mean yell out, but communicate things that are happening. Don't yell at your teammates.
No, I'll just raise and say, "Hey, I've missed this one," and then someone can reply. And by still
also,
watching, you can fill the gap at the end. During the run, it's okay to communicate, especially if you miss something. It's not it's not worth to be shy to not phrase that, you know. And during the run, I just missed the last one, and you're still taking your notes, and someone is like, "Oh, the last one was a frontside tail slide," and you're like, "Thanks."
And because you've seen the practice and the warm-ups, you can imagine it, and your evaluations are more accurate again. So you completed your records, and later on you can actually look at the full notations and be able to compare with the others.
And you
that
get
makes
also
complete sense.
You get also, especially in the Olympics or the qualification events, you get the replay. So you can you can still write, oh, that was a frontside tail slide, but I didn't know if it was a long frontside tail slide around the corner, whatever. And then you can take 5 seconds at the very end when the run is over to rewatch just that part to make sure that you reward the athlete with the you know, the best possible way, in the best accurate way, to not make a mistake, you know, and to not, because that could be half a point more.
That could be the game changer, like sometimes. But at the same time, Alexei, and thanks for bringing this up, what I would say and maybe recommend, you cannot rely always on the replay, because sometimes you don't have everything in the replay. So for all the aspiring judges judging on the lower level of competitions or on the national level, where they don't use the technical kind of tools that are provided on the higher level of competition, don't be afraid to ask your professional colleagues if you miss something.
I just find it's a bit of a habit, and maybe it annoys people, but I find when I'm judging, it just becomes a bit of a habit of like yelling out those key things, like, you know, especially if you're new to judging and you're taking a little bit longer to write stuff down, and maybe, like you're saying, you're not using the technology of, you know, entering scores electronically or something, so you're still sort of jotting stuff down. The next skater started, you know, it doesn't hurt for people in panel members to be like, next skater's in, you know, so everyone knows to look up, so you're not missing their first trick. There's nothing worse than being in the crowd or being a skater and seeing that the judges got their head down and the next skater's already started. So, you know, like saying next skater's in, or at the end, like that trick doesn't count, buzzer's gone, or, you know, just making sure like rather than checking that everyone's on the same page, you just sort of like almost commentating a little bit for your judge, like for the rest of the panel. Not the whole way through, obviously, that would be very annoying, but just those key things.
Yeah, that comes into play too. Like if there's a glitch when you submit your scores and something's happened with something's happening with the iPad or whatever it may be, someone's going to have to deal with that. Getting your score in while the contest is still going. So there has to be teamwork there.
Yeah.
But this is great what you described, but you tapped it a little, Kyle, before, but that's different. Helping each other to complete the record and be able to basically put together all the pieces of the performance to the fullest extent possible. It's different from communicating or imposing or suggesting point evaluations to your colleagues or asking for it, right? That's not the way to go.
Correct. It's different. You're helping relay all the information in order to get that score. These as a member of the judging panel, you're hired for your opinion. You're not hired to help someone out with their opinion. That's not what it is. But the most important part is to get all the information down and correct.
So once the buzzer goes on, there's no talking about scores and stuff. It's the judges with their opinions and with the experience and the knowledge they have after watching the event performance, practice, anchored score. That's it. Here we go.
Yeah, correct. And if you've done all of those steps correctly, you shouldn't be nervous for when that buzzer goes up. When it's time to put your score in and you've done all the necessary steps of everything, then it's not a piece of cake, because you have an opinion there and there's responsibility, but minimizing the variables is the important part.
And it's also, guys, and that's what I wanted to ask you, it also helps to speed up the process, right? Because as far as I know, there are time limits for entering the scores after the buzzer goes off. It's not like I always say, judging panel is not a parliament. It's not a discussion forum when you score a contest. You don't want to let the athletes wait. And like we said on the big events, it's televised and the TV will not wait before you set up your mind. So it helps, right? It makes the process go fast, and knowing you need to be able to use all your helping tools that you have, all your experience to deliver on time, right?
And you just look more efficient, and the spectators and the athletes trust you when things are moving along at a steady pace, as opposed to always waiting on the judges.
Makes complete sense, guys. I guess this was it for the scoring the actual event topic. And now let's move to the next one.